And Chris, it's hard to tell now from this side of the view, but when you were around the other side, a different angle, could you tell if there was a passenger inside this cab?
We were taking a really close look. You can see our extreme vision activated there. It does not appear that there's anybody in the passenger seat, just that male driver in the driver's seat. And you could see he's really trying to figure out what his next move's going to be here. Definitely looks like they've fallen back just slightly, but they will catch up to him. Again, upwards of a half a dozen units as he was getting onto the 101 freeway. And surely you can bet CHP has been monitoring this as well. Certainly they are going to engage him here once they can catch up. But again, LAPD in pursuit here now on the southbound side of the 101 freeway. CHP on the way out here, and this guy is definitely picking up speed despite that traffic. You can see he is not faced with many options here. He's basically stuck behind some of these drivers making their way over to the side, letting him through. But he has no hesitation ramming into some cars as he was getting onto the 101 freeway just before we joined you live at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Rammed right into a red Camaro without any regard for anybody's safety here. He is just desperate to get away and is now doing some really erratic maneuvering on the southbound side of the 101 freeway. You can see he was going to try and squeeze between those two vehicles. Now he's decided to change his mind. He's just basically looking for any opening he can find to get to kind of lose the LAPD, but they are monitoring from the ground and from above, and they will certainly catch up. Certainly, as I mentioned, CHP on the way out here as well.
Okay, so here we are now on the southbound 101, now going into that emergency lane, trying to get around traffic with this CHP in close pursuit. Or is that LAPD? I'm sorry.
Yeah, LAPD seems to be catching up, so he's not getting very far. LAPD is not too far behind him here. Again, several units right behind him. They're going to probably, I would venture to say, pass this off to CHP, depending on how this goes here. But he's still in LAPD territory. However, being on the freeway, it's going to be CHP's jurisdiction. Looks like they are making that handoff, and now he's back on that right shoulder here. We'll see what he decides to do here. Doesn't look like he intends on getting off, but it does appear that we are now getting where he may be armed and dangerous as we speak. So again, this is a possible murder suspect, and they do believe that he is armed.
All right. Well, he's certainly making some desperate moves, as we have seen. He's been driving on the shoulder. He has had no problem sideswiping people. And also the element of him being armed, perhaps, and dangerous, as well as being a suspect in a murder. This all adds up to what could be a very, very hazardous pursuit here, going through this pretty heavy evening rush hour traffic. This is a bad combination, a bad series of elements here that we are watching unfold here live on ABC 7. Air 7 HD is, to our knowledge, the only news helicopter over this pursuit at the moment. And a warning for anybody who's in this area. If this thing does footbail, if he does end up pulling into a neighborhood and jumping out, this is somebody who may be armed, who's believed to be armed, and also is a suspect, as far as we have been able to find out, a suspect in a murder. So this would make him an extremely dangerous individual. You're getting a close-up look now through our ABC 7 technology here in Air 7. You see the baseball cap. You see the tattoo on his shoulder. He's wearing that kind of wife-beater shirt. And he's fidgeting around in there in the cab of this pickup truck, and doing some pretty suspicious and scary things thus far as he continues southbound on the 101 freeway, now approaching Tampa. So he's this would be what, Woodland Hills, I believe?
Yeah, we're making our way through Tarzana, just past Tampa Avenue, and you're right, Mark. He's really fidgeting around in there. Sometimes these guys, depending on the situation, might be more laid back. This guy's almost hunched over the wheel, just looking for some space to squeeze through here. And LAPD really doesn't have many options. You know, we always talk about the pit maneuver and the spike strips. None of those are an option. Once you get on the freeway, it's a whole different ball game. And even once this comes to a stop, it's going to be a very scary situation because of all of the pedestrian traffic surrounding this pickup truck. Again, this is an armed and dangerous suspect. LAPD right behind him there. They're going to give him a little space, but they are not going to lose him. They can't afford to lose him because of how dangerous he is suspected to be. But again, we're southbound now on the 101 freeway here in Tarzana as this chase continues. We were here earlier, well, not far from here anyways. This started as a Devonshire Division following, and then made its way down here to the west end of the valley towards the 101. He got off at Winnetka, got on at Winnetka, got off at Topanga, did a little circle, and now made his way back onto the 101 freeway, heading towards the 405. So that's where we are. We're making our way through Woodland Hills here, and he is still doing freeway speeds upwards of 60 miles per hour, according to our real-time tracking there, which is about normal for this area. But a little while ago, when he was on the 101 the first time around, he was getting close to 100 miles per hour. So he doesn't have any hesitation to step on it if he needs to try and lose the LAPD here. But it does appear that he's now in Encino, and looks like he's got an inhaler of some sort.
That is an asthma inhaler. I have one of those. It looks exactly like that. That's an asthma inhaler he just hit. He just took a dose. So on top of all this, he's in some physical discomfort right now as well, and dealing with this. So you can imagine the stress level here is extremely high, both for him and for the pursuing officers.
That's exactly right. The adrenaline's pumping on both ends, and if he's already got an existing asthma condition, that will exacerbate things. So certainly his physical condition now being taken into consideration here. Again, unclear whether he's under the influence of any other narcotics or alcohol at this point, or how they managed to track him down. But certainly what we always want to remind people is that the LAPD has more intelligence than we do up here. So depending on what they know about this suspect, they may be trying to get family members on the line, and if they have a cell phone number for him, they may try and contact him. But this does appear to be a desperate suspect trying to outrun police here, and it's going to be a very tenuous situation once this does slow down and come to a stop, and we hope it does. Rather see it off the freeway, just based on the amount of pedestrian traffic during the rush hour like this, where police just have so few options. The best scenario obviously would be if he decides to just give it up and surrender, but that does not appear to be happening so far.
Very aggressive driving, and from what we've been able to see from the extreme vision view from Air 7 HD, kind of an aggressive stance behind the wheel. He's been leaning really forward in his seat, hunching over the steering wheel, just looking like he's desperate to get away, which clearly he is. And that has been demonstrated throughout this pursuit with some of the maneuvers he's been making. He sideswiped a car on a freeway off-ramp, a red Camaro, and has had a number of near misses and going through red lights, and now just driving around traffic, putting a lot of people in danger. Christy, where are we now? We're on still on the southbound 101. What part of town?
Coming up on the southbound 101 here at Balboa Boulevard, so we're making our way closer to the 405. We'll see if he decides to jump on the 405 or stick with the 101, but definitely exhibiting agitated behavior. He just looks for any opening, coming very close with another vehicle there. Some of these folks actually letting him through. Now he's off at Balboa Boulevard. We'll see if he decides to go north or south. I'll have a couple of options here, or maybe get back on. He was just encountering too much traffic, I think, there. Was getting really frustrated, and now he's southbound on Balboa. Coming up on Ventura Boulevard.
Okay, well, the traffic's not going to get any better for him. Whatever he was trying to avoid or evade traffic-wise is not going to improve getting off at Balboa and heading toward Ventura Boulevard at this time of day. He is, looks like now he's going to try to get back on the 101 perhaps. He's now heading...
A game of cat and mouse. You know, he's looking, I think, for pockets where he can actually move around and get away from some of this traffic. Unfortunately, this is Los Angeles, and at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to get away from the traffic. At this point, he just wants to get away from police, making every attempt to try and evade those officers behind him. CHP was setting up to get involved here on the 101, but this is now back in LAPD's jurisdiction, and he is continuing now northbound on Balboa Boulevard, just past Burbank Boulevard, and it does look like he's got a little bit less traffic to deal with here. Again, I think the 101 was just, he tried it, and twice I think he was just encountering too much frustration, and he does appear appear to be very agitated. As we mentioned, looks like he's now rolled up the window for some reason, but he's picking up speed too. Definitely going above the speed limit here, upwards of 55 miles per hour according to our real-time speed tracking here at Air 7 HD. LAPD right behind him, pretty much doing similar speeds. They can manage him at this speed. If he goes a little bit slower, they may even set up for a pit maneuver depending on the surroundings. But it does look like they've got a little bit of an opening here. Minimal traffic on Burbank, on Balboa Boulevard for the time being. Now he's got a little more to contend with, pulling over to the right, maybe setting up for a turn, just looking for an opening to squeeze by here. But LAPD is right behind him, so they're not going to let him get too far, guys.
He's boxed in right now. He can't. There's no place he can go to
really
at the
boxed
moment.
in. You know, at one point earlier, he just jumped right over the concrete median. Would not surprise me if he gets desperate enough to just jump the curb. He just appears to be that agitated. He just needs to, or just wants to get away. He just has no intention of pulling over here. They rarely do, and obviously facing the charges that we suspect he is facing. He just is going for it. Now pulling onto a surface street here off of Balboa Boulevard, doing a complete U-turn actually, and he's got, again, upwards of a half dozen, I count almost 8 black and whites right behind him. Again, this is all LAPD's pursuit at this point. CHP never actually did get involved, but LAPD hot on his tail. He's back on the southbound side of Balboa Boulevard. LAPD's airship is now overhead, tracking his each and every twist and turn as he makes his way through the west side of the valley here, again, southbound on Balboa.
Suspect U-turn now southbound Balboa. Towards Victory.
Hi, Rocco.
If it comes down to it, Pat and Jeff.
Yeah, you talk about deadly forces because that murder suspect is armed, we do believe. Now, this is a larger vehicle. This is going to be a full-size Dodge Ram pickup truck, Pat, so you wonder if they're going to be able to pit maneuver something like that if it comes down to it.
Well, I bet they have a way of doing something like that for sure, because they've got larger vehicles as well. You know, it's interesting to me in a way, Desmond, just wondering even about this vehicle. There's a lot of, are we in traffic, or did this driver just stop on his own?
Yeah, we are in some traffic here.
I
We're
see.
right back at the 101 freeway here, southbound on Balboa. So he's kind of pinned in at this point, but this is, you know, when it gets very tense for LAPD is they do suspect that this guy is armed, and because he is a murder suspect, very, very tense situation. But yeah, Jeff, you know, fortunately these new SUVs that LAPD have, they're very, very capable of doing a pit maneuver. You know, if it would have been one of the older Crown Victorias, that may have been more of a concern. But I think with their SUVs that they have here, and a lot of added extra horsepower, it should not be a problem for them. We're now getting back southbound on the 101. So after exiting the freeway, decided to get back on the freeway. And we are southbound from Balboa as we leave Encino. He's going to have a bit of an open freeway till he gets to the 405. And then that's always a congested section as eastbound as he comes away from the 405, headed through Sherman Oaks and towards the 134. The eastbound 101 pretty much clogged up all afternoon, and no exception today.
This is really the height of rush hour right now. We're talking about 5 o'clock, the 101, and that's the reason why initially you saw him get off the 101.
And the 405 is going to be jammed too. Of course, though, Desmond, you've been talking about this driver going on surface streets as well. So who knows? He could take a service drive. I was just when I was earlier, I was talking to Jeff about this, about the pickup truck itself, all the stuff in the back of the truck, and you know, it makes me wonder a little bit: was this his vehicle, or is this possibly a stolen vehicle? Don't know that for sure.
Yeah, you think something like this might be a contractor or something like that. Somebody uses this vehicle for work. There's a big toolbox in the back. This is a larger, older pickup truck. Again, there's 2 individuals inside this pickup. One, the passenger is wanted for murder, and the driver is what Desmond said, being an accessory at this point.
Hey, Desmond, do we know about any other threats to people? For what we've seen, or drivers, he's been making some moves on the wrong side and making U-turns and things of that nature. But as far as really driving erratically or using his vehicle as a possible weapon, have you noticed anything like that?
I wouldn't say using the vehicle as a weapon. It looked like he came pretty close to clipping a few vehicles there on Balboa, and he was driving on the right shoulder at one point. I did hear LAPD mention that they saw the passenger reaching into his waistband earlier. So again, a very tense situation here for LAPD. When you hear details like that, that came from the LAPD chopper that is overhead. They were able to peer inside and see that movement there from the passenger. Again, that is the person who is wanted for, suspected of murder. We are eastbound on the 101 here, getting ready to hit the 405. That's going to be the Haskell off-ramp. So this is, as I said, where he's going to drive into a clogged freeway and see what his move is going to be next if he opts for the southbound 405. Really, any freeway he opts for at this point is going to be congested. The north 405 coming away from the 101 is always pretty tough getting into Van Nuys. Southbound 405 is going to be awful by the time he gets into West LA. And the eastbound 101, as I look ahead, it's not completely locked up. It's definitely slow. It looks like he is going to be going for the 405. Yeah, he just took the option now for the southbound side of the 405. So now as we get through the Sherman Oaks area, we'll see if he decides to climb the Sepulveda Pass or if he exits at Ventura Boulevard. Again, another area that is very congested this time of the afternoon.
The southbound 405 would be more congested at this point in time than the northbound. But, when somebody's doing something like this, you don't know what they're actually thinking, and they're probably pretty desperate and just doing whatever they can.
And, when Desmond mentioned that he had passed Haskell, I was thinking even if he took that exit, he would run into Ventura Boulevard, which is still going to be packed at this hour, and even the surface drive on Sepulveda, I would think. Obviously not as much as the freeway itself, as the 405 going south, but still, most people will take that artery of Sepulveda to try to avoid the traffic. But so far, this guy isn't doing that, is he, Desmond? He's still on. He's on the southbound 405.
Yeah, southbound on the 405 now climbing the Sepulveda Pass. Looks like he's staying to the right. I'll zoom out and show you here. Southbound is going to be deceptively fine until he gets down to the other side of the pass, and then that drive generally jams up in the afternoon around Wilshire or Santa Monica Boulevard. And then, if he's trying to evade traffic, then he's if we're going to theorize here, do a little armchair pursuit work, I would say he's going to take this down into West LA, and then if he wants to stay out of traffic, he's going to have to get off on some surface streets. Of course, a lot of streets in West LA pretty much gridlock at this time of the afternoon now, but if he's going to double back again, he's going to be in some very heavy traffic. I'll zoom out and show you, you can see northbound is stop and go. It's always one of the most frustrating rides of the afternoon, that northbound side of the 405. But right now he is, or northbound I should say, southbound is where he is right now. Southbound approaching Mulholland Skirball Center, climbing the Sepulveda Pass, and very little traffic now. Some really bad news for us guys, and I was kind of afraid of this. There is a huge layer of clouds up ahead that we are not going to be able to go through. So let's see what he decides to do. But if he continues on this into West LA, this is going to be very problematic for us.
They're giving the commuters a big eyeful for the afternoon commuters. That one side of the southbound 405 is relatively clear. And
that's pretty surprising at this hour, that's for sure. Even it seems to jam up around Skirball Center and stays backed up until you get to, and even at Wilshire. So this is very interesting indeed. Can you tell us what it looks like up ahead of this vehicle while you can, Desmond?
Yeah, as far as traffic, for him, traffic is fine, but clouds for us is going to be the problem here. You're going to start to see the clouds coming into our shot. It's like he's passing a school bus here. I'll just kind of tilt up and show you here really. Wow. Actually, I don't want to let him get out of the shot. It looks like we may be able to get about halfway into the Sepulveda Pass for this, and then may have to get off of this chase, unfortunately. We'll see. He could still exit at Skirball Center. And if that was the case, he would end up on Sepulveda Boulevard. We'll just have to see. He's going to be coming up to the new Skirball off-ramp, and he's going to continue past that now at this point. So he's now committed to going into West LA. Next will be Getty Center Drive. You see the LAPD chopper right overhead over him like a hawk, and they are going to do their best to stay on this. And actually, we're okay right now. Go ahead,
Desmond, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when have you ever seen traffic like this on the southbound 405? Well, I asked you to open up your shop. I don't see anybody except this driver.
Not even Sunday morning.
Yeah, there's actually. Do you think there's some police work ahead?
Yeah, no, it's pretty confounding. I know. I was thinking, like, are they holding traffic on the off-ramps? But they're not. I'm looking down at the Skirball on-ramp, and people could get on the freeway right now. But this is miraculously wide open. This is not the volume side in the afternoon, but it's incredibly rare that it's this wide open. It's completely empty at this point. So, you know, once again, it's just one of these events. It's so perplexing how these suspects seem to get really lucky with the routes they choose. But that is going to change. I can guarantee you once if he continues into the clouds, and now I can show you the clouds up ahead.
Yeah, we can see
if he continues down into West LA. Yeah, if he continues down into West LA, he will hit traffic down around Wilshire Boulevard.
I tell you what, it could be 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday on the 405.
And you still
it's a
have more
parking
traffic
lot.
than this. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, Desmond, we certainly want you to be safe in terms of your maneuverings up there with those clouds. I'm just wondering, I mean, obviously he also has an opportunity to take an exit and go on surface streets if it gets jammed up, as it does on the freeway ahead. It's still amazing to me, though. Look at that. It's still not that many vehicles on the road.
Yeah, you can see a lot of the clouds. Now, what's really interesting, this is going to be a tense situation once police end this pursuit, because this is an armed suspect, they believe, wanted for murder in the passenger seat of this older Dodge pickup truck, and the driver and accessory to this was making all these moves in the southbound 405. And Pat, at one point in time, I think I saw like 6 police cruisers behind the vehicle.
Well, and that's interesting, too. I asked the question about has he made any desperate moves in terms of using his vehicle as a possible weapon, only because considering this person is a murder suspect trying to get away from police, but really probably knowing, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. And though there are those clouds, so we are going to be losing Desmond's shot pretty soon there. But if you look on the right side of your screen, that's a shot from earlier. I would say about maybe 15, 20 minutes ago.
I think that's Encino, the surface streets there. They mentioned that he went up on the shoulder at one point in time, even up onto a sidewalk to avoid the traffic, which he was experiencing at that point in time on those surface streets.
You know, see how the traffic is there on the 101, that's for sure. And he made another turn, a U-turn, in fact. We witnessed him doing that on Balboa Boulevard and got back on the southbound 101 freeway and then exited the 405, which is apparently where he is now traveling southbound. But we are unable to show you that because of that deep cloud cover that's on the west side right now. But, you know, the CHP, LAPD, they're still behind this car. Yeah. So they're going to stay on top of this.
And how often do you hear about no traffic on the 405 and cloud cover like this in the afternoon?
All right. Well, talking about cloud cover, let's bring in Garth Kemp right now so he can fill us in on the conditions.
Yeah, well, we continue to pick up quite a bit of marine layer, actually, you guys. We're getting probably 2,500 feet last night. We're going to see the same. This is our camera right now. It's a beautiful shot. That's actually, Mulholland by Laurel Canyon, shooting down just over by Fryman Canyon. So that's what we're watching for right now. 70 degrees is what we're looking at. You can see it already pushing itself in the downtown Los Angeles as well. So it is definitely more like a May kind of weather pattern for us today. Very interesting that a low ceiling like that the copters can't get through that way. 70 degrees right now, winds out of the west at 8, humidity 76%, 90 in San Bernardino. They're clear of all that. 73 out towards Burbank. So it's starting to propagate itself into the San Fernando Valley slowly. Just a great day yet again for us today. 77. We were 8 degrees below normal. Big trough of low pressure, a center of a low and a trough associated way up here, just south of the Aleutian Islands. That's going to change our weather next week. But before,
make sure West LA and Pacific are notified of this pursuit, please.
L90 Roger, West Lima, copy.
Information to you, but again, this is a murder suspect believed to be armed, and the level of danger here is palpable, and so something that the police are having to deal with. And again, right now they don't have the air cover, so if he was going to try to shake them at this point, it would be a little bit easier for them to do that because they don't have their police helicopter. The same clouds that affected us, that forced us to turn around, have forced, we believe, LAPD to turn around as well. They have to be very careful about flying under that marine layer because it can get so socked in that they all of a sudden have real visibility problems, and in a helicopter that is something you cannot work with. So what we're having to do is try to fly around it. I'm looking at a kind of a closed circuit picture of Air 7 HD right now as it's trying to fly around that marine layer, flying through South LA. It's going to cross over the flight path of LAX and be vectored through there, passing over the marine layer and trying to catch this pursuit on the other side of this thick bank of clouds. We are over another freeway at the moment, so hopefully we'll be able to rejoin this fairly quickly, assuming it does continue on the 405. But yeah, last point seen on the 405 southbound, and he was being less erratic, as Chris Christie was pointing out. The suspect, his erratic driving seemed to be a result of the traffic, a result of the fact that he was surrounded by so many other vehicles. And once that kind of dissipated, he was able to calm down and made it a lot less erratic and potentially dangerous for fellow drivers.
And it did seem that the authorities were able to perhaps anticipate his move, because when he got onto the 405 freeway, there was not a sole person on that freeway for a good 5 minutes or so while we were following it. It did appear that the freeway had been closed to give this person some space and put other people out of danger. But then, as Chris Christie reported, there was some traffic ahead, so eventually that brake only ran so far, and he ended up back into traffic, which we believe is the case right now on the 405 freeway, somewhere on the 405, most likely in traffic, trying to get around traffic perhaps. But we're going to try to get over that way, get around this marine layer, and reestablish our view of the suspect if possible.
Yeah, and the reason we're covering this, of course, is that the level of danger here is pretty high when you've got a suspect this desperate. And we cover these things for reasons of public safety. The public needs to know, in fact, if this sort of a dangerous individual might be heading into their neighborhood, and whether he might head into their, jump out of this truck potentially and run into their homes. We have seen that so many times over the years. Dallas Raines here to talk about the weather and the fact of this marine layer and what these pursuing helicopters are up against. Dallas?
That's right, Mark, and the level of cloud there is only at about 1,500 to 1,800 feet, and when you look at the map we're going to show you, you can see the marine layer clouds extend all the way inland. The car is pursuing southbound right now, and there's a huge batch of it, and it's going to be a while, at least about 10 miles before he runs out of the marine layer if he stays on the 405. Once you get just south of Hawthorne there, you will be getting out of it if he remains southbound. So, but you can see that Mark and Michelle, a big surge to the marine layer. It's been down there all day. Many of those areas on the South Bay have not seen the sunshine at all.
Well, I love the accuracy of this map, Dallas, that shows exactly where the marine layer is right now and where it'll break up on the 405.
Yeah, amazing shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can follow that right along the 405 right there where you see those arrows. And you can see as you continue to move southbound, as I mentioned, just south of Hawthorne there, right in that area, you're going to run out of the marine layer back into clear VFR conditions.
Okay,
All
Dallas,
right.
thank you.
Yeah, we'll see if he ends up there. And I wonder if we could take the picture from Air 7 HD as it's heading through this marine layer. That's it on the left. So we've had to break away from the pursuit for the moment. But you see what we're up against is the visibility problem that makes it a hazard basically for air traffic, coupled with the fact that there are a number of helicopters out there and anything else that might be out there. It's just for the safety of everyone involved, including, by the way, the law enforcement helicopters. The video on the right is the video that we have seen, have been watching this suspect in some of the desperate moves that he has made, getting on and off the 101 freeway, running red lights as you're seeing there. This, I believe, is Balboa Boulevard. No, it's Topanga Canyon. And the very close calls he's had during some of the really heavy traffic.
All right. Well, we're told we're going to keep an eye on this. Chris Christie will continue to monitor the situation from Air 7 HD. And if we can reestablish our view of the suspect, we will go back to it. But in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll move on to some other news and we'll keep you updated on that situation. A shocking discovery on a hiking trail in Calabasas. The LA County Sheriff's Department says a Caltrans worker found human remains on Calabasas Road near the 101 freeway. As Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth tells us, investigators say it is the body of a man.
After setting up their crime scene here for most of the day, after finding those bones, those human remains, up through a
into the marine layer. He is now in Santa Monica. He is headed into Santa Monica. We had him for a second, and we're going to reestablish contact. There he is now. He got off at 4th Street. There they are. They're turning west on, I'm not sure what street that is. We're going to find out. Chris Christie is there in Air 7 HD. What can you tell us, Chris?
Mark, just as you mentioned, continued southbound on the 405, jumped on the 10 freeway westbound into Santa Monica, just exited past Lincoln at 4th Street, and now he's made his way onto Broadway, continuing westbound on Broadway. LAPD, along with Santa Monica PD, involved as he comes up on the infamous 3rd Street Promenade. Lots of pedestrian traffic down there, shoppers, diners, and lots of traffic in general. You can see as they make their way along Broadway, I should say. He's now continuing southbound, made a turn southbound onto 2nd Avenue, 2nd Street, I should say, and he's coming up on one of those parking lots adjacent to the 3rd Street Promenade, now circling the entire shopping district here in Santa Monica, coming up on Colorado, making a right turn westbound towards PCH. He may decide this will actually take him onto Ocean, and he may ultimately end up on PCH. But again, I could tell you that both Santa Monica PD and LAPD hot on his tail. You see he's going right through a red light, a number of cars coming to a stop there. Of course, a lot of these folks are also hearing the loud sirens behind this murder suspect, and so we've seen some of the traffic voluntarily pull off to the side and allow for this guy to continue on. He's now southbound on Ocean here in Santa Monica, a very busy area right over some construction cones. We are coming up on a construction zone. You can see he's now skirting the double line. Oncoming traffic on the northbound side, back on the southbound side. Santa Monica PD takes this very seriously, and they are not known.
Still on advice, and we have this pursuit on TV.
That was record timing for this time of the afternoon to get from the Encino area to Santa Monica. We're southbound on Ocean Boulevard now, away from the 10 freeway. I think you just crossed Pico right now. So we are back on it here, and we have a lot more LAPD units in pursuit. Even the helicopter's actually not even overhead right now. They had to go even farther out of their way than we did. We were kind of at our limit going through the Cahuenga Pass. So we're still waiting for a LAPD chopper to get back on this murder suspect. But here we are, southbound on Ocean Boulevard. And I just found out as well, Pat, you were asking me earlier how this initiated, how they got this suspect. And it turns out that they were surveilling this guy. So that is what led to this. And I think they tried to initiate a pursuit, and then obviously he didn't stop. So we're now eastbound on Pacific Avenue in the Santa Monica area. He'll be coming up on Main Street as well. So, you know, West LA, Santa Monica, this time of the afternoon, typically very, very heavy traffic on a lot of these streets. He'll be approaching Lincoln, which is really one of the worst streets in Los Angeles. Well, he just turned away from it right now onto a smaller surface street. But here we are, back on the pursuit of the murder suspect. It is the person in the passenger seat that is the suspect. The driver just an accessory at this point. On surface streets of Santa Monica here, rush hour traffic on a Wednesday, Pat and Jeff.
And you know what? Look, it's driving. His speeds have gone down a bit, right? He is slowing down on this narrow street here in the Santa Monica area. Makes you wonder anytime I see something like that. Now he's making another turn, and Desmond, you can tell us what street he's on right now, but these are still pretty narrow streets.
Yeah, this is quite a ways from where it all began. This was basically in Woodland Hills at Victory and Winnetka. And in record time, Pat got all the way down here to Beach Boulevard. This is southbound. I guess that's kind of shows you what happens when you break the law, run the lights and the stop signs, and have police behind you, how fast you can get from one way to another.
Yeah, but like Desmond was saying, Jeff, we were watching it. The freeway was basically wide open. The 101 was a little crowded, but the southbound 405, as he said, he made it down here to Santa Monica from the West Los Angeles here, and that just doesn't happen. You're near Skirball Center or Sherman Oaks, and he's down here in Santa Monica in just a matter of minutes. And again, Desmond, maybe does he have traffic up ahead? That's why he's driving rather slowly. Kind of weird.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, Pat, just to get back, there really is no justice in this world. I mean, we obey, you know, every law we can, and then we have to sit in gridlock traffic, and here we have a murder suspect who just gets the most magical freeway conditions for rush hour on a Wednesday. We are eastbound on Pico right now, and coming to a major intersection. This is going to be Pico and Lincoln, so very busy intersection. Now going into a driveway here. Let's see what happens. If this is a one-way drive-through or what, boy, it looks like it. I think this guy's going to be boxed in, guys. So things are going to get really, really tense. Let's see what happens with this murder suspect in. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I'm just going to say we have to remember that this is an armed suspect. The passenger in that vehicle is armed suspect that's wanted for murder.
Well, that it almost looked like that vehicle tried to box him in. I don't know if they knew exactly what was going on, but they certainly didn't make it easy for this pickup truck to get back onto the streets from this parking lot area. But he managed to do it.
Yeah,
but
he
LAPD,
did manage to do it. It looked like at first like that was a one-way in and out parking, little parking area, but that was not the case. There was another entrance, so he just cut through traffic there on Pico. Now continuing back east on Pico through Santa Monica away from Lincoln.
We had heard from one of our Twitter friends that had pointed out that they possibly wouldn't do a pit maneuver because of this person being armed.
Oh, well, that makes sense, right?
So, yeah, Desmond, expertise here. I mean, we have seen, if it comes down to it, of course, they will do whatever they have to do to try to get this guy to stop. But that may be a reason, especially since they're not driving so erratically at high amounts of speed, that they're staying behind this vehicle and, playing this out.
Well, you'd think there would be extra precaution because this is a murder suspect with a weapon. So police have got to take that into account. Maybe that's the reason why they're giving a pretty big berth here.
Well, and he has had it, Desmond.
Yeah, I would say, Pat, at this point, you're right. It might be incredibly risky to try to pit this guy. They do suspect that he's armed. They actually saw him reaching in and out of his waistband earlier, so obviously a real serious concern of a gun, and this is a murder suspect, so they have to take every precaution. Using spike strips, if they can corral this guy, that may be a better option, or they may just have to wait for this guy to stop or run out of gas. This is a gas-guzzling truck, especially being an older Dodge Ram here. These things, will get maybe 10 or 11 miles to the gallon on a good day, even less here as you're on surface streets. And it's also an older truck. So, of course, we have no way of knowing if this guy was on a full tank of gas, if he obviously wasn't running on fumes because he's already covered quite a few miles in L.A. But this may be one of those situations where they're going to have to wait for him to stop on his own volition or to run out of gas. Of course, it could turn off into a standoff situation. We've seen that happen many times, and that could happen as well. It looks like we're northbound on 20th now away from Pico. So I've been trying to listen in to LAPD talk about this. I haven't really heard anything as far as strategy about how they want to bring this to an end. And, I know a lot, especially lately, LAPD has not been afraid to terminate some of these suspects, some of these pursuits, especially if it was for something like a traffic stop or something like that, or rather for a traffic violation, I should say. But considering this is a murder suspect, I would not expect that LAPD is going to abandon this chase tonight, Jeff and Pat.
No, but you know what? Just moments ago when he was on, I guess that would have been Pico Boulevard, we just noticed quite a few people walking. A residential and business area, but there were a lot of people walking down the street, and that's something that they also have to take consideration of. What street are we on now?
This is getting onto a boulevard now, looks like.
Yeah, I see the American flag flying. Is it
Olympic, we're told.
Yes. We just turned east on Olympic away from 20th Street. And yeah, you do have a lot of people out here walking around, but at least, Jeff and Pat, we don't have people out here buzzing around on bird scooters right now, since I believe Santa Monica still has that temporary ban on scooters. And, I know we've been talking about that a lot lately, people just flying through intersections and stuff like that. So right now, in theory, I think we just have pedestrians that we have to worry about, and cross traffic as well. This guy has been running a lot of lights, but at least he's not been balls to the wall crazy with his speeds. He actually haven't really, the fastest we saw him go earlier was on Balboa when he was through the Lake Balboa area, and even then I think he was only probably up around maybe 50 miles an hour. I haven't seen this guy really driving with the crazy speeds, but he has been blowing through lights, blowing through stop signs, not stopping for anybody, come very close to clipping quite a few vehicles. So
yeah, this is rather tame
but
compared
again,
to
at least
earlier.
not those insane speeds that we see. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say this is rather tame compared to earlier when he was in Encino. He went up on the sidewalk to avoid traffic. He actually clipped a car or two just to get around in some pretty heavy traffic. But I'm curious right now, Desmond. We at one point in time on the 405, I think there were like 6 or 7 units behind this vehicle. Once again, this is a murder suspect in the passenger seat of this older pickup truck. How many units behind him now?
I could see 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like at least half a dozen or more behind him right now. Actually, even more than that.
Yeah.
It's possible that Santa Monica PD may have joined in on this as well, but it has been the LAPD Topanga Division that has been the primary law enforcement agency on this. As we continue eastbound on Olympic, I believe, stand by here. We've got another little cloud bank that we're trying to contend with. I know he's behind this building right now. But he is traveling into the West LA area, and the closer he creeps to the 405, the slower traffic is going to get for him.
You know, I'm wondering if I saw quite a few buildings there. I'm wondering if he's passed some landmarks or some like Santa Monica College.
We had, let me see, a couple of the Expo line stations we were going by. He's eastbound on Colorado right now. So as I gaze out the window here, he's still a ways away from the Federal Building and the 405, kind of on some of these smaller streets. This is the residential section of Colorado. As you travel more to the west, it turns into one of the main thoroughfares for Santa Monica. But this section of Colorado is just kind of a small residential street. And it looks like he's going to be turning north now.
Even more of this is a residential area. You wonder if so many vehicles there, Pat, behind police vehicles have got to be because this is a murder suspect, possibly armed, and 2 people. We're talking about 2 people in this truck, the driver being accessory to the crime.
No, I'm sure that's why they have so many vehicles on this particular pursuit right now, which is not, he's not traveling at very high rates of speed, but certainly, you know, we always try to wonder if there's rhyme or reason to where they are going or why they're going in the direction that they're going. He's into some traffic now.
This is Broadway,
Desmond.
It should be.
Is this Broadway?
Yeah, actually, Broadway and Sentinel, I believe I'm hearing LAPD say. I thought I heard him say Ohio earlier, which is kind of a little bit of a secret route to cross underneath the 405, but believe he's on Broadway right now. Still in the city limits of Santa Monica, but he will be back in Los Angeles soon as he creeps closer towards the 405 freeway.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked about this starting just before 5 o'clock. The LAPD picked up this pursuit in the Woodland Hills area, and he has managed to end up in Santa Monica, not directly though. He went towards Chatsworth, I believe, at one time, and then turned around and ended up in Reseda, off of Reseda in Tarzana. Traveled southbound on the 405 to virtually no traffic at all. That's why he made it down to the Santa Monica area as quickly as he did. And he just seems to be driving,
West LA.
You know, I don't know, Desmond, there's not a pattern in particular right now. We could have said that earlier, but right now he just seems to be driving wherever. I'm not sure if he knows exactly where he is or what streets he's going to be on or what his destination is going to be.
We're told it's gone from Santa Monica into West LA. Go ahead, Desmond.
You're right. He is now eastbound on Santa Monica Boulevard here, traveling towards the 405, and this roadway is going to be stopped in just a couple of feet. He's starting to hit it right now. You see, this is very typical for eastbound Santa Monica. All the major thoroughfares that cross the 405 and Sepulveda this time of the afternoon get very heavy. So now driving in the center divider. And but yeah, to answer your question, Pat, it does seem to be pretty aimless at this point. I know sometimes we speculate, we see these suspects stay in neighborhoods that they know, maybe neighborhoods they live, neighborhoods where they have friends that they think may be able to give them a safe harbor, to evade the police. This seems to just be aimless. There, I believe he just crossed Sawtelle and eastbound on Santa Monica Boulevard, getting really close to the 405. Now not afraid at all to get on the wrong side of streets here. He'll be crossing the 405 shortly. It may just be an instance here that this guy is trying to, enjoy the last few minutes of his freedom. Maybe he's making some phone calls to people. If this is a murder suspect, he has to know that the worst is ahead for him. And the LAPD chopper is back overhead. They had to go all the way back through Hollywood to get around this. So we were able to get here before they were. It just turned south on a little surface street here right by the 405. It looks like he wanted to avoid that gridlock there, eastbound Santa Monica Boulevard, right around the 405.
Like
murder suspect now traveling southbound on a small surface street here, paralleling the 405. Holmby, this is going to be Holmby Street.
And another residential area, of course. And we have to make note here, too, to our viewing audience that the driver is supposedly a suspect only because he is driving, at least as far as we know. And the murder suspect reportedly is in the passenger side of this vehicle, which is also interesting. You've got two guys, and one willing to be the getaway driver, if you want to call it that. And if we're talking about a murder suspect along with someone else in a truck, that's pretty, you don't see that every day.
Right. Well, remember, police were surveilling this vehicle, so you wonder if the driver even knew at that point in time that he had a murder suspect in the passenger seat. This is something that the police were pursuing. They had surveillance on this vehicle, and then that all began.
If he didn't, he knows.
He knows now, doesn't he?
That's for sure.
He sure does. And so this all began at Woodland Hills, and Pat, you might remember that this is a murder suspect in the passenger seat that you mentioned. This is a green pickup truck. It appears to be a full-size Dodge Ram pickup truck, maybe possibly a work truck of some sort, as it has that toolbox in the back and quite a bit of debris in the back as well. And continues, Pat, to drive kind of aimlessly. This is going to be now West LA after Santa Monica. So Desmond, what's the latest that you can see from there? It appears he is kind of slowing down even more.
Purdue Street, I think he said.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we've been zooming out here just to see if he's going to drive into a, essentially a one-way street, or, a street that has one-way in or out, because we are right by the 405, and a lot of the surface streets east-west do not go through besides the main thoroughfares like Olympic, Pico, Santa Monica Boulevard, Ohio, but there's a lot of streets where if he takes a wrong turn, he's going to be staring at the sound wall of the 405 freeway. So let's see, actually, as I zoom out here, yeah, he's going to be coming back up, I believe, to Santa Monica Boulevard. So Santa Monica and Corneth and Santa Monica Boulevard, going back west now, back towards the city of Santa Monica, it looks like.
We understand, according, again, to some of our friends here in social media, that 2 canine units have been asked to join in this pursuit. Now, look on the other side of Santa Monica Boulevard there, and you see so much traffic. Again, as we had mentioned, this person has been, I want to say lucky, if that's the right word to use in terms of traffic today. That's for sure.
You make mention of the canine. I would assume that would be if this comes to a stop and those suspects bail and run, that's when the canines would take chase of the suspects. That's pretty common procedure for the police and LAPD in pursuit of this green pickup truck with a murder suspect in the passenger seat and a driver and accessory to the crime at this point in time. We're taking this live here on CBS 2. Desmond, you said he's back in West LA and appears to be just kind of going with the flow of traffic now.
Yeah, just kind of putting along here westbound on Santa Monica Boulevard, just crossed Barrington, so he'll be back into the city of Santa Monica pretty soon. And you were talking about the canines, and they're an incredibly effective way to sometimes diffuse these situations very fast. But we are talking about a possibly armed suspect here, murder suspect. So that does kind of add a wrinkle, and you have to worry about the safety of the canine. They're highly trained animals. They cost a lot of money to train, and they are considered officers themselves. So, if you have a situation where a suspect kills a canine, it is essentially the same thing as if he killed an LAPD service person.
Okay, well, we don't even want to talk about that right now. We certainly don't want to, but that's the truth. But yeah, we're not quite there at that moment. I've been watching this person. Is he staying on the brakes? Desmond, I keep seeing his rear lights.
I do too. They flicker. I don't know if there's maybe some
or if he's got a hazard.
Yeah.
Hazard lights on or what?
No, I don't think he has. I don't think he has his hazards on. Like I said, he's kind of been hitting the brakes a little bit as he blows through the stop signs. We're just glad, at least at this point, that he hasn't, like I said, gone crazy, pedal to the metal with the accelerator and flying down these streets while he goes through these intersections. So you see them there again, just kind of tapping the brakes as he goes through. That was actually a green light, but that was Centinela he crosses. He's now officially back into the city of Santa Monica, westbound on Santa Monica Boulevard.
What do you think his speeds are? Maybe 20, 25, 30 miles an hour?
Yeah, not very fast. I mean, probably right around the speed limit. I think the speed limit on a lot of these streets is about 35. It looks like that's what he's been, maybe even a little bit slower than that.
You wonder about what else they could be doing at this particular time. You can sit back and say, well, I've seen some spike strip moments that could have happened there. But again, with this person being armed, that would probably make the situation a little different, Desmond?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you don't just want to put an officer out there with a spike strip if your airship overhead has been seeing, the suspect reaching into his waistband, believed to be armed and dangerous. It's very perplexing. There's no easy way out of this situation for LAPD. Maybe at one point they may need to call the SWAT team or something, maybe an armored vehicle. We've seen chases like that before, where when they have a suspect that flashes a gun or something like that, then they can get the armored vehicles out there, or the guys that have the big bulletproof shields.
That's
so
right.
yeah, the Bearcats, exactly. So just kind of have to see, but I haven't heard any talk of that yet from LAPD as we continue westbound on Santa Monica through the city of Santa Monica, crossing Cloverfield. Pretty busy intersection. You see a car coming right along there. That guy adjusted perfectly to this guy who just blew right through the red light there. Now crossing 23rd, so we'll be back into the especially populated area of Santa Monica, the most walkable section, where you definitely have a lot of people that will be out here walking around, especially if he goes back around the 3rd Street Promenade.
Oh, that's for sure. And there are some schools in that area as well. It also makes me wonder when we were talking about just the rate of speed he's traveling, and even if he were to stop, that also leads to a very heightened situation, because unless he cooperates, throws his keys out, and even if he throws his keys out, if they suspect this guy is armed, that still makes a very difficult situation for police to resolve.
That was a really good observation, Pat, related to that throwing out the stop strips there, because if you think about it, there's no way for a police officer to defend himself if the passenger in the vehicle has a gun and he's throwing out those spike strips. There's no way for him to return fire if that individual, in the truck.
It's sort of like making yourself a target. That's you're just going over in your head techniques that LAPD has used or possibly could use, but that certainly would present a danger.
Yeah, it certainly seems like there's a little bit limitations that police have when it comes to somebody like this who's wanted for murder that they believe is armed, when it comes to diffusing the situation and how they get this to end, and how they get the canines involved and whatever the case may be. I mean, this is a little bit different now that you have somebody that's wanted for murder, and they were surveilling this pickup truck, and this was in Woodland Hills when this all began. And it's now 6 o'clock. This has been more than an hour now, Pat, that this pursuit has been going on, and it's now in Santa Monica.
Putting on psychologically, looking at this, where this guy has just been driving rather slowly, you almost wonder if they know, this is going to end at some point.
They've got to know that,
and
right?
I'm going to, maybe as long as I can, possibly, it's one thing about getting arrested and going to jail than to have something worse happen. And of course, if he was driving much faster and presenting a danger to other people, drivers, and of course the police themselves, then that always presents a heightened situation where, the adrenaline is flowing, and sometimes these people just lose a sense of what could possibly happen, or they don't care and they just drive erratically and present a danger.
Well, you just get a sense that he's trying to figure something out, that he doesn't know exactly what to do. I mean, this is probably something they've never done before, and they're just trying to figure this whole thing out as they're slowly driving through the streets of Santa Monica.
And again, we have been on this pursuit since almost the beginning of the 5 o'clock hour. It started around 4:54, according to our information, where LAPD noticed this vehicle at Victory and Winnetka near Pierce College. And we are about to begin CBS 2 News at 6 o'clock. We will be picking up the 6 o'clock report with this breaking news of a murder suspect and a driver in the Santa Monica area. Police, LAPD, are in pursuit. We have watched this vehicle traverse from the Woodland Hills area to Santa Monica, traveling over the 101 freeway, the 405 freeway, the 10 freeway, miraculously to very little traffic. And here he is in Santa Monica now, where he has been for probably the last 20 minutes or so. Our Desmond Shaw in Sky 2 has been following this vehicle, this pickup truck, since we began our coverage, and we want to go back up to him now for an update, which we've seen him just make some turns, Desmond, and still staying in the Santa Monica area, driving rather slowly or cautiously.
Yes, Pat, we are eastbound on Montana now. That was away from 14th Street where we are now, so I believe this is going to be about 20th Street now at this point. And I do have an update now. I'm hearing that the suspect in the passenger seat, the suspect wanted for murder, the suspect who we believe is armed and dangerous, is on the phone currently with the watch commander of Topanga Division, LAPD. That is the lead agency on this. This is where this pursuit began. It began near the Pierce College area, right around Victory and Winnetka. I'm hearing them once again talking about possibly armed and dangerous and for units to use caution. But it sounds like he is on the phone right now. Unclear what he's telling the watch commander right now, but it sounds like he is in communication with LAPD right now as the driver of the vehicle continues eastbound on Montana through surface streets of Santa Monica.
Whatever he is talking to the commander about, or the commander talking to him, it does, for now, appear to be a very cautious drive on the part of this person behind the wheel. So perhaps they are listening and hearing some information that, you know, you're not going to get away. This is going to end some way or the other, and why not end it with giving yourselves up, because we're going to stay on top of this. And they have been behind this pursuit from the very beginning, which was, of course, close to 5 o'clock. So we've been watching this for about an hour now.
Yeah, and, you know, Pat, the driver of this vehicle has to realize, too, obviously, that, you know, when this is over, he's going to be spending some time in jail as well as an accessory to this alleged murder suspect. As we are eastbound on Montana, yeah, it is unclear what is being, you know, discussed right now between the suspect and the watch commander. I was also hearing LAPD talk more and more about the canine unit, so it does sound like they do plan on getting the canines involved if the situation, you know, presents itself. As I'll zoom out, we'll show you here as we're eastbound on Montana, the various units from LAPD that are in pursuit. It's not clear if one of those is a canine unit that is one of those vehicles that is in tow right now of this late model Dodge pickup truck. Beat up old Dodge, eastbound on Montana, murder suspect headed back towards the 405 freeway.
And, you know, we were talking about even the possibility of this vehicle running out of gas, since it is, you mentioned, beat up and an older model. What would you say in terms of his speed right now, Desmond? He still seems to be going at a rather normal clip.
Yes, definitely a normal clip, I would call it. I mean, even, you know, I would say probably even below the speed limit. I don't think I haven't seen him get above 30 miles an hour here on any of these surface streets. So it is kind of peculiar because, you know, we see a lot of these desperate suspects and we see them fly down some of these streets, sometimes 70, 80 miles an hour on the main thoroughfares to try to escape, and this guy's not doing that. So, you know, what is going on in his head? Is he just trying to buy time? Is he trying to, you know, discuss if he thinks he's going to negotiate something with LAPD? It's not clear at this point, or if he's just enjoying, you know, one last scenic drive around Santa Monica and West LA before, you know, he realizes that he's going to be going away and facing trial for what he's accused of.
Yeah, and at this point we're talking about two people, because that driver, where he may not be the actual murder suspect, he is certainly an accomplice in evading police and being behind the wheel with this murder suspect right next to him. Then again, you know, who knows, Desmond? I don't know. We have not heard information that the driver actually knows this suspect. We really don't know at this point, or we have not heard if the two are actually together, or if this person could have just stopped and jumped in this car and pointed a gun and told him to drive. I know I'm just speculating, obviously, but that is a possible scenario.
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. That is a good point. The driver is completely unknown to us at this point. If this is just a close friend of his, or like you said, you know, an innocent person who's gotten caught up in it. I mean, crazier things have happened in these pursuits. That's for sure.
Yeah, that is true. But, you know, to put yourself in a situation, if you're an accomplice or a friend and you are driving this person around, knowing that it is going to end at some point, because LAPD is still behind this vehicle. As we have heard, there are possibly 2 canine units also following. We've got the airship overhead. So we almost thought at one point with cloud cover that this suspect possibly could have eluded, if you will. Law enforcement, certainly our choppers, Desmond, you couldn't fly through the cloud cover, but as we see, no, that's not the case. They are still on top of this. They know where he is. They're right behind him. So whatever time the airship lost, they still have the units behind this vehicle, who is now, or I should say still in Santa Monica. Do we have an exact location, Desmond?
Yeah, this is southbound. I believe they said Granger Street, I believe, away from Montana, so going away from the golf course there and kind of paralleling the 405 freeway. And you're right. I mean, traffic was definitely on his side, Pat, as he came away from Sherman Oaks and southbound on the 405. He certainly had the chance to open it up, go underneath the clouds, and get a head start on the LAPD chopper, which, like us, had to go around. But that was not the case. We didn't even see him speeding on the freeway. If anything, he was going below the speed limit as he had that magical, lack of traffic on his side.
He's slowing quite a bit.
It just kind of. He is, and we are. Let me see if I can get a surface street for you here. And yeah, he's eastbound Mayfield, making another southbound on Bundy now. So a street that, as he gets to the south, turns back into a pretty major street through West LA.
Yeah, we can see on the other side of him, Desmond, how traffic is really lined up. Can you pull out a bit so we can see what's ahead of him? He's got a pretty clear path right now, it looks like.
Yeah, he does, as he makes his way back down to, I believe it's going to be Santa Monica Boulevard again. And I can't tell you how many times I've been stuck southbound on Bundy back when I was a delivery driver, and it's just so frustrating. And then it's just I don't it's just so strange how lucky these guys get with the pursuit traffic. As I believe he's now going into this shopping center. Let us try to get around this building. In a Ralph Shopping Center. Going to go over the top of this building here. Let's see what he does. Obviously, a lot of people out here right now driving right near the front entrance where a lot of people are walking out with their groceries.
I wonder if he would try to do something. It almost looks like he wants to stop, Desmond. But even if they tried to, wow, look at this person. Even if they try to get out of that vehicle, the police are right behind. We have seen people drive to the shopping
he's
center.
At a complete stop, and these people have absolutely no idea what's going on.
That's a Ralph store right there, it looks like.
Incredibly dangerous. Of course, we all know about the Trader Joe's, the pursuit that led to that tragic incident at the Trader Joe's just about a month ago in Silver Lake. And here we go. LAPD out, guns drawn. That is lethal force. Those are not beanbag guns. Those are rifles that they have out, guns drawn. The suspect has come to a stop here, and look at, you can see an innocent bystander right up ahead. This guy has no idea that he's only about 15 feet away from a murder suspect in this vehicle. So hopefully they can get some staff out here and rush people into and out of the store.
Driver's side is opening.
Doors opening. Yep. Let's hope that this is the driver coming out.
Okay, now that's the driver. So, but remember, our viewing audience, the purported murder suspect is in the passenger side. Haven't seen any movement there yet, but this driver looks like he is complying so far with police.
So far, it looks like this guy has had enough and doesn't want to spend any more time in jail than he's already going to.
And again, as you mentioned, guns drawn. But the passenger side of this pickup truck, that door is not open yet, and that is where that murder suspect apparently is.
Yeah, so and you see the canine. You see the canine right there, ready to respond if anything goes south here. He is ready to do his job if necessary, and hopefully the barking dog will persuade the suspect, the one who is really wanted here, to surrender very quickly as well. Sometimes all it takes is a little motivation of realizing that there is a dog who is trained to rip your skin off.
Okay, doors opening.
They will surrender in there, and here we go. Now the door's opening here. This is the person that LAPD has been wanting all along, the murder suspect, and he's got, I don't know if that's a cell phone. I thought I saw something in his hand. It looks
that's not smart.
Like it's a cell phone. It's a cell phone.
Yeah, he's putting
it down.
Setting
it down. It was kind of tense there. It was hard to see for a moment what that was in his hand at first, but it was indeed a cell phone.
And it's good that they noticed that.
Looks like, yes, absolutely.
Well, you mentioned he had been on the phone with the watch commander for quite some time.
Right, yes.
So now he is complying.
And it will be interesting to learn what they were talking about later, but it does look like they've had it. And, perhaps, as I was saying, if this guy was just, who knows, if he was trying to call some loved ones, say, I'll see you later or whatever, his last moments of freedom here before peacefully surrendering to LAPD. So it does look like this tense situation inside of Ralph's parking lot off of Bundy Drive in West LA is coming to an end. LAPD coming into the truck just to clear the truck, just to make sure there wasn't somebody else inside the vehicle. You got the code 4 there. It looks like this is going to be a official conclusion here. They just need to put the handcuffs on these guys.
Yeah, we can't call it
in the back of the moment.
Can't call it code 4 yet because they don't have them in handcuffs. But they are approaching.
Right, but here.
Notice they are approaching that murder suspect first.
Right.
And they do have him in handcuffs. Yeah. It's interesting, Desmond.
So, it was. Go ahead, Pat.
I was going to say, so many officers, they could have handcuffed the driver right away as well, but they didn't do that. Now they seem to be.
Yeah, they obviously. Yeah, obviously they want to prioritize, the main suspect first, and then. But it turns out it was the correct move for LAPD to just kind of wait this one out. It seemed like maybe they suspected, they could tell by the way that this guy was driving, he wasn't driving like a complete maniac. They kind of just waited for him to stop. They didn't want to put officers in harm's way with spike strips or with a pit maneuver. But it has come to a conclusion here peacefully. Suspects surrendering on their own volition here in West Los Angeles inside of a Ralph's grocery parking lot.
All right, Desmond, yeah, we'll call that a code 4, and we thank you very much for your coverage. We've been on this since 5 o'clock, just after 5 o'clock, but we know that's when it began in the Woodland Hills area, ended up here in Brentwood, where you see this so-called murder suspect and a driver have been taken into custody, and we did not see any incidents on the road as far as any injuries or harm to police officers or residents, which is a good thing. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more news. Stay with us.
Coming up.